Okay, I am joined today by Laura Dockrill, who is host of Zombiemum. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And primarily, we're here to talk about your podcast, of course, which is fairly new. Could you tell our listeners, those who haven't heard about it, what it is and how it came about?
Sure. So Zombiemum is a podcast aiming to normalise conversations between parenthood and mental health. In 2018, so 3 years ago, I had my baby, had my first little boy, Jet, and was hit completely out of the blue with a rare mental illness called postpartum psychosis. I'd never experienced mental illness before, had a normal pregnancy, when I say normal, I mean healthy pregnancy.
Yeah.
There was no reason for me to get unwell, had a traumatic labour, and then within the days following after the birth of him, I just began to psychologically unravel. And I guess after that, in the frustration, confusion, lack of awareness, I felt like, why is nobody talking about this? We're too familiar, I guess, with too much, with the physical symptoms that having a baby, what it can do to your body during pregnancy and afterwards, but nobody talks about what it can do to your head. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So at what point did you decide that a podcast was kind of the right medium or format to go for? I guess there's probably, I imagine there's loads of stuff online, loads of information, loads of forums and that kind of thing, but you decided that speaking about it would be good. How did you decide?
So I wrote a blog entry on Mother of All Lists when Jet was 6 months on my phone, that kind of list style, like real shorthand where I could just get it all down. And I write anyway, children's books, and was approached by publishers to write about it. I actually have a copy here, I'll show you, because this comes out next month. So This is the paperback. Just cool. Showing you, just because I actually did have this in my hand. Don't worry, I'm not doing a Blue Peter on you.
Very nice.
I guess I was really torn, because I was like, I feel like I need to sort of rip the mask off the killer, out the bully, and this illness felt like it kind of had me in a bit of a chokehold, and almost like going, if you tell anybody, that kind of real fearful language. It was really frightening time for me, and I was, I guess, torn, because I was like, I feel like I don't want to feed the conspiracy that, pretend that having a baby is just amazing. It's so rewarding, when here I was, at the illest I'd ever been at that point in your life, when the expectation is you're meant to be the happiest you've ever been.
Yeah.
So when I found the confidence, the courage to do so, which was really met, social media of course has its flaws, but it's also been an amazing time, especially in the pandemic, those lonely times when when you have a newborn, when you begin to make connections, relatability, and people saying, I didn't feel normal either. I might look like I have my whole self together online, but I'm struggling too. This isn't just people that have had babies. I'm talking about anyone with any mental health issues going on. So I wrote the book, and that came out a year ago. And the podcast is really a celebration and an extension of that, really. The beautiful thing about a podcast is you can just get to the point straight away, but the tone is there, the warmth is there, the mood is there. And in those, especially those early days of having a baby, or when you're in the throes of any sort of mental illness or going through a challenge or anything difficult, you might not have the capacity to pick up a book and get lost inside that. But maybe a podcast that is accessible and easy to you, don't have to think too much about it. You can pick it up and put it down. I think it's a really amazing platform to open up and show that you aren't alone.
Yeah, totally agree. As you can imagine, I'm quite into podcasts as well, and I think I
can imagine
you
that.
Just said. So, in terms of the actual format of the episodes themselves, I take it you sort of talk to people with similar experiences or experts in the area. Is that kind of how it works?
It's not so much experts, actually, because okay. I think the language surrounding these illnesses, they are, or these themes, they can sometimes be scary and overwhelming. And what I really wanted to do was hear from human experience. I was so overwhelmed with when I first came out about everything, hearing from people that, as I said, that I'd look to, and I'd be like, you're there with the lipstick and the leopard print and looking like you've got everything together, and then being like, oh, you found this difficult. So for example, episode 1, we have Paloma Faith, who is someone I've always really looked to creatively, always manages to straddle motherhood and a working life, and I think, wow, she's got it all together. She's one of the first people that reached out to me and said, you know, I really didn't think I was okay in those early days. Straight away said I felt like my head was sewn onto somebody else's body. And I was like, what? Like, because this isn't just baby blues, feeling a bit weird, crying a bit too much at an episode of Friends. Like, this is, you know, not being able to move, debilitating. I had catatonia, you know, suicidal thoughts. This is heavy stuff. And so to hear people normalise it, that we, you know, either in the public eye or people that we look up to, that have managed to get through it. I call it survival, not just survival, but survival. Come out the other side and live to tell the tale.
I like it.
So that's, and of all disciplines and platforms. So we've got, for example, Denise Welsh, who, I mean, she is an absolute whirlwind on it. Lem Sasay, that, you know, he wrote his amazing memoir. So not just parents too. We might have not all been parents, but we've all been kids. So these are from perspectives of both adults and children. Lem grew up in the institutional care system, so his experience is really unique and interesting. So a whole range of different voices, and these are just intimate chats, exchanges, not interviews, just kind of, so Catherine chose episode 2. She also had the same illness as me, and I thought I'd had this rare illness, that I was the illest person that had ever been. And here's Catherine with her book coming out within weeks of mine, gone through the same experience. And we're both the year of the tiger, and now we feel like we're tigers.
Amazing. Cool. So how have you found the reaction to it? I imagine there's been a lot of people coming out, I was about to say coming out of the woodwork, but just people obviously who you've never heard from before, and you don't know, but being like, wow, this is amazing, I can relate to this, or it's something that perhaps I've been worried about myself, or I might be experiencing. I imagine that's been quite overwhelming at times, or just lovely.
Yeah, woodwork is right, because that's why it's called Zombiemum, because I don't know, have you seen Kill Bill?
Yes.
I certainly felt like, when I look back on my experience, a bit like that scene, if you remember, where Uma Thurman crawls out of the grave and goes to get a glass of water in the cafe. Yeah. That's how I felt, like I had died and been resurrected, and that's why I'm here, living to tell the tale, you know. And so the woodwork is absolutely fine to say that. Well done for that.
Okay, good.
Yes, the reaction's been enormously moving, amazing, actually, because when the book came out, we were meant to launch at the London Palladium, and secretly, in my gut, this is in just before the pandemic all hit off last year, when I mean, I was excited and I was happy to be launching, proud, but I was scared as well. I was like, I don't know if I can talk, you know, I don't want to go on Strictly Come Dancing for postpartum psychosis, a postpartum psychosis survivor. You know, I'm just happy to be alive. And so the idea of doing that, I was a bit nervous, and we had a tour planned, and I was like, do I really need to be, you know, on my own in hotels, you know, in bookshops, listening to lived experiences that can be, as you say, exhausting, emotionally draining. And I'm also, you know, I'm having these conversations, but I'm not a trained psychiatrist or professor. You know, I just want to talk about it. So at home, the reaction's been amazing. But this is the safest place for me to be, at home with my boys, and you know, anytime something gets too much, I can just go and be with them, and that grounds me. You know, now, as it always should have been, which is why I'm grateful for the illness, my mental health is my most important thing, and being here for my little boy and my partner is my top priority. So but you know, it's just incredible what people, you know, the depression that I fell into after the psychosis was so, oh my God, unlike anything I've ever experienced. And that was hard, because the first time with the psychosis, I was hospitalised. It was so big, everybody couldn't fail but pay attention. But there's depression. To think that people live alongside that every day, you know, it's just, and the fact that the illness is, you know, described as weak, for example, is just shocking, because it takes daily strength, and that needs to be celebrated, that what people are going through every day, how much they're achieving. I really want to create space for those people and say well done. Yeah,
it's amazing. Does I often talk to people since the pandemic, when I'm talking to them about their podcasts, sort of how they found recording from home and recording remotely. And obviously you weren't producing a podcast before that, as you weren't going into studios and recording with people. But I imagine with what you just said, that sometimes you're having these conversations, switching off at the end and immediately being in your own space. You're not having to go and you know, get your recordings and jump on the tube and then, you know, travel home. You're just in your safe space, as people would say. That must make it a fair bit easier in a way, do you think?
Oh wow, like definitely. And you know, the whole getting the book out, doing the podcast, all of those things. There's difficult bits too, because I'm so obsessed with people, and I love doing a bit of social anthropology, kind of microscoping in on people.
Yeah.
And I write for my job. I'm so inspired by human touch and connection. I really did miss that, and especially I'm dealing here with precious cargo. This is people's truth, their emotions, and knowing when to listen and how to hold that and carry it, whilst also, oh my god, the alien Wi-Fi world, praying these wires are going to contain magically everything. Don't want to go, sorry, didn't press save on all of that stuff, where you were just getting really deep there. Luckily my partner Hugo is a music producer. He was in the band The Maccabees. He did all the recording and production of that, and he knows how to do everything. So thank goodness for him, because he's actually my secret weapon. He basically runs the whole entire show, to be honest. I have him to thank for everything. Okay. So he makes it happen. Without him, no. I'm an old school newspaper post office sort of person. So this is an adventure for me in itself.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, I guess it's sort of similar for your guests as well, in terms of them being able to open up or feeling comfortable. Again, if they're coming into a studio and they don't know, and you've got people outside that they don't know outside the window checking the levels and all this kind of stuff, must be a lot harder to open up. I was speaking to Scroobius Pip, who is one of the founders of Pod Bible, and he was saying how reluctant he was to record his podcast initially over Zoom, because it's all about that connection, being in the room, reading the body language and stuff. But then he started getting access to people who were abroad, and he spoke to Corey Taylor from Slipknot, and Corey was just in his bed, and he said actually Corey was so relaxed because he was in his own space. He just had his breakfast or whatever, he just turns on his laptop and he can just talk. Whereas when he's being shoved into different rooms to record with different people on a press tour or whatever in London, it's going to be very, very different. So yeah, there's pros and cons, but I think
I love that. I agree with you, and I think the nature of this kind of discussion, a sterile room, there's something about that just doesn't have the same. You're absolutely right. You can get people when they're at their most vulnerable, because they have that safety and support. I guess the flip side of that, I do workshops and that sort of stuff, is that some people don't want to talk personal when they're at home with other people around. They might want to let stuff go that they can't say. So there's flip sides, but I think certainly for this and this precious cargo and translating it, I think it's been very it's a bit. Also, don't you like that there's none of that journeying now? You just literally pop, you're at work, and then here I am, finished work.
Precisely, yeah.
2 steps.
I did enjoy, it was great meeting a lot of people in the early days, but it's so easy. And of course it gives you access to people around the world, and
exactly.
It's a lot easier.
And especially actually in those early days of having a baby, this is really important, because that is such a isolating culture anyway, where real mental illness, poor mental health can really breed in those cultures. So this is a real way to make connection. So it's been really important.
Yeah. Cool. So if people are listening and they're thinking, I like the sound of this, I could be interested in this, or this could be beneficial to me or somebody I know, is there a particular episode that you'd point people to, or is it just go to the start, scroll through? What do you think?
Go to the start, scroll through. Yeah, I guess if you want to. They're all so different, and some of the guests I have personal relationships with, others I've never met, which just feels so odd because I feel like I have with them. Yeah. They're all different, so I would say no avoiding it. Do the hard work, go on the journey, and see what you think. Some of them are hard for me to listen to. They touch on subjects themes are difficult, but that's what I wanted to do. It's normal. Now I go to type spaghetti on my phone and my phone goes schizophrenia in autocorrect, that's how much I've normalized all this stuff now. And I'm so proud of that, because those words were really scary once upon a time to me. And they shouldn't be. It was part of the human condition. So Hugo, for example, does an episode, my partner, so hearing it from him, it's really difficult because I was hospitalised, separated from them both. I listen back to that and I think, oh my goodness, you went from being on stage, like being in an indie band with guitar music, to suddenly being a single dad overnight. He asked me before he was going to be born if he was going to be born with teeth, and now this is what he's dealing with, and when I listen back to that's difficult. So it's hard for me to stand back in that way, because I hear what some of these people go through. I can laugh about it as well. So humour's been amazing medicine for me, but it's wild. The whole thing is wild. So I'm just happy. Do you know what? I'm just happy to be alive, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's a triumph for me.
That makes sense. Cool. All right. Brilliant. Okay. And moving forward, I guess you're just going to be recording more while you can. It's all nice and easy, as we said, in many ways.
No, you're saying it's so easy. It's all
so
nice and easy. You said it like that. It's all nice and easy. It's not that easy for me, to be honest. I would much rather have done a pen pal process where we write letters to each other and we could read out the letters really slowly in our own time.
That might be the next big thing.
That would be much more my way. Maybe take photographs of text messages, for example, something that's nice and simple.
Yeah.
Maybe make mixtapes for each other, something like that. But yes, maybe more recording. I'm writing the adaptation of the book at the moment, which has been like totally amazing because it's fiction. Everything I do, an extension of the illness itself, feels like I'm removing, the fear is getting dialed down. I'm throwing the dark stuff into the light, and with that comes space and pride as well. You know, I'm like, oh, that's not so thick and heavy. It's not this like scary rucksack that's strapped to my back that feels like it's a bomb that's going to go off any second. It's like there's joy with it now and peace, and that is what I'm grateful for.
That's brilliant. That is amazing. It's so great. I love, obviously you can imagine I talk to all kinds of different podcasts. So you get, sometimes I'm talking to people who just spend 2 hours just talking about films, and there's absolutely, I was about to say there's no value in it, but that would be harsh. But you just get such a big variety of people that make podcasts these days. And it's just nice to speak to somebody who's doing something so sort of worthy and obviously beneficial to you and beneficial to huge amounts of people. So I really hope some people will get it downloaded, subscribe, and all that stuff. That's all right.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. And people will be able to hear you on another episode recommending some of your favourite podcasts very soon. So thanks, Laura.
Thank you so much.
That's all right.